The HazBeanz Show with me, Martin Beans Ward, the podcast that travels in the back of a van. Hello and welcome back to the HazBeanz Show. Today on episode 3, I talk to Tara Sillery. Tara Sillery is from a company that she owns called PR Passion. And she, well, I suppose she does PR work. She does work in the media. She's a presenter. She does so much other things that we're going to get to a little bit later on in the episode because she's absolutely fantastic. She does so many things. But on top of all of that, she's a bit mad, like myself. And we're going to talk a little bit how myself and Tara actually got to know each other in a few minutes. But first, before we get to all of that, I just want to say a massive thank you to our sponsors of this show, which is the Furniture Emporium in Oranmore. Thank you so much for coming on, guys, and for helping us out. And I also want to say a special shout out to everyone that has subscribed on Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/The HazBeanz Show. For everyone that's subscribed so far, you're making this show possible. Thank you so much, and I really, really mean that. Now, Tara, how are you?
I'm great. What am I? The lucky number 3. Say 3 instead of 3.
3, 33 to 30. You swear you're in England or something, you know. When you go to England, as soon as you make English friends, it's like, go on, say it. Go on, mate. Go on, say it. Say it. What, say it. 33 to 30. Go on, say it.
Do they ask you to say that?
They actually do.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But look, it's like it's my party piece now as well. Like I'm
33.
like a 6-foot leprechaun. Without the crock of gold. We're over in the UK to try and make the crock of gold. But Tara, thank you so much for coming. And yes, you said the lucky number 3. You were meant to be on episode number 2, but sure, look, you went on your own little shenanigans and we had to catch up with you on episode 3.
3 is a much better number.
Yeah. So look, straight into it.
Straight in.
I really want to get into the bottom of, I suppose, life in the Middle East, because what people don't know is that you spent, 10 years?
10 years. My main home is in Kuwait, and then I travel between Kuwait, Dubai and Lebanon, but I also work a lot in the States. But yes, Kuwait is my main home, and contrary to what a lot of people think, I don't have to cover up. I don't wear what people call a burqa, but it's not actually called a burqa. No, it's called niqab.
And niqab?
It's called niqab, yeah.
Niqab,
where
okay.
the women fully, just you can see their eyes, that's niqab. The scarf that women cover their hair with, it's called a shayla, and the black is called abaya.
Okay.
So yeah, there you go. So contrary to what people think, Kuwait is one of the most forward thinking countries. Like, why would I live there if it was, really strict, really backwards? There's no way I'd live there.
Yeah.
Although
there's parts of Ireland that's quite backward as well.
There you go. Do you know what I mean? It's basically, the women in Kuwait as well are so highly educated. To cover up as well in the Middle East, it's the choice of the female. They're not enforced to do it. It's tribal, it's religious. You know how even we are here in Ireland, you know, you don't do specific things because of your choice as to what category of religion, if you want to be really religious, semi-religious. But people have this thing about if they see a woman covered, they think, oh my God, she has to walk behind a man. She's not allowed to do anything. She's not allowed to work. What they don't know is these women, it's their choice.
And would that be the case then for, I suppose, all the countries in the Middle East? Or
okay, so in Kuwait, 90% of my Kuwaiti female friends don't cover up. Kuwait is a very fashion-forward, fashion-conscious country. Again, I would say a very high percentage of the population study abroad. The country loves to give back to their own people. Every Kuwaiti student that you will see in Dublin, in Ireland, most of my friends that are doctors and dentists in Kuwait, females and males, they all studied in Ireland. So that's why we have such a close relationship, Yeah. A lot of my friends have lived here, so they know my culture. They know what my country is. They know how us as Irish people are.
What do they think of the Irish people, actually?
Love them. Some of my friends, they're like, they categorize part of themselves as being Irish.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's
Even
really cool.
though, we're very similar in our way of thought, because us as Irish, we're very into families.
Yeah.
which is a whole Kuwaiti culture as well. I think the only big difference is there's a whole massive drinking culture, partying culture in Ireland, which is not in Kuwait, because there's no bars, there's no alcohol in restaurants. I think that's the only big, huge fundamental difference, honestly.
Yeah. Well, they also like loads of tea as well, don't they?
There you go. They love tea.
I was recently in Istanbul last March.
Yeah.
Just before all of this coronavirus thing went crazy.
Yeah.
And when I was over there, some of the things that stood out for me, it was my first time going to, say, could you call Istanbul an Islamic? It is.
Istanbul is very religious. It's very religious.
When I was there, they're lovely people, brilliant people, but very cosmopolitan. And I stayed in a part called Sultan Ahmed.
Okay.
And it was more of a family-oriented kind of part of the city.
Yeah, a lot of Kuwaitis would stay there, by the way.
Really, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, and I highly recommend it. It's much better than the other part, like where the main bars and all that stuff. I didn't even have one drink. Well, I think I bought a can of beer in a shop.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't go to any bars. I spent most of my time trying out the food. And
the food's amazing.
Food's fantastic.
I know.
But one of the things I noticed was, there wasn't a lot of people wearing the headdress or things like that. There really just wasn't. And a lot of men, friends, 2 male friends, you'd see a lot of men holding hands. Yeah. Going down to things.
That's normal.
It's not even normal in Ireland.
It's normal! It looks weird for you because you don't see it. Like if you saw...
Well, not weird. It just looks...
Alien,
different. Yeah, different. Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with it whatsoever. I think more power to you. Great, that's brilliant.
But this is like, I think as well, maybe in Ireland we're a bit too scared to be very tactile people, aren't we? A little bit. I think some Irish people are not very tactile, whereas in the Arab states, Kuwait, when you greet someone, you kiss them immediately. Whether it be in a business meeting or whether it be your friend. It's like for men, they kiss each other twice on the cheek. They'll kiss each other on the forehead, and a very respectful way to greet one another is males will touch each other's noses.
That is so intimate.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you were an Eskimo,
like
that's fucking phase 2.
That's way up there with 5, baby.
Do you know what I mean? You're halfway towards getting to breakfast.
There you go. Yeah. No, this is
that's great. Though.
Yeah, it's the culture.
And it's so intimate as well. Like touching noses, like that is actually quite intimate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I know for me it's the norm from being there. Do you know what I mean? So I know what you mean about seeing guys holding hands on the streets and all this. It's more like they value friendships an awful lot over there as well, by the way.
Yeah.
And also don't forget it's very tribal. So the majority of people are all related somehow or some way. It's very...
Again, not too dissimilar to Ireland.
Here, exactly. Yeah. And family surnames, it's all tribal.
Which would be quite like the Irish Travellers.
Yeah.
It's quite funny
again.
Exactly.
Like, okay, for example, your surname. How many of your family are in Ireland? And straight away, if someone hears your surname, they'll associate with you a certain area of Galway, won't they? Or a certain area of Ireland.
Well, listen, if you want to find a load of wards, go into the hospital in Galway, you're grand, You'll see my old cousin there, maternity ward. But yeah, I know. Look, I get what you mean. Because travellers are quite tribal in the same way, and they carry the name for. But then again, that's a real Irish thing. Look, we're in the city of the tribes, Galway.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a tribal county.
Yeah.
But I've always been. I really have. No, I'm not just saying this. But I have been fascinated with the Middle East because it's a part of the world where we're being told to be afraid to visit, and that's just mainstream media, and that's like. American media in particular, and with because of some problems in the Middle East, but that's been pawned off as no matter where you go. Like I remember my first time hearing the call to prayer. No, I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
Like for me, coming from Ireland, when I heard the call to prayer, I was like, I'm just trying to go to sleep.
But we ring bells here in Ireland at midday every day and 6 o'clock every night. So it's the same thing, except just less times in the day.
And you know what it is? After I heard it, because I stayed there for 12 days.
Yeah.
And I was quite close to a mosque.
Yeah.
So it was very loud.
Yeah.
But after a few days...
It becomes peaceful, right?
It does become very peaceful.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
But where my apartment is, it's because there's 5 prayers a day, right? And then this Fajr prayer is at 3:30. Like, it depends on the sun, but it'd be like 3 o'clock in the morning. And then there'll be another prayer at like 5:50 or something like this. I don't even hear it. And the mosque is right next to me. I don't even hear it.
I think because you become attuned to your environment, really,
totally.
isn't it?
But why would you be scared of that?
Well, I wasn't scared of it, but I tell you why a lot of people might be, is because if you look at any movies that came out in the last 10 years to do with the Middle East, it's always to do with some Navy SEAL group trying to infiltrate this terrorist organization, you know, and straight away the first thing you see, the first opening scene is landing in the helicopters, and what do you hear? You know, what is the ambient sound that the producers use? It's the sound of the call to prayer, which of course denotes that you're now in an Islamic country, you know, you need to be afraid. And of course, it actually just adds to the stereotypes. And what it really does, it damages the image that we have, because people by and large are quite gullible. Yeah. And when you watch enough,
problem.
It is.
That's a problem.
And I think it took me to go to a country to realise I was an absolute idiot for having any fear in the past about travelling there. And after I came back from Istanbul, I was like, that's it. Yeah. I want to see more places. But unfortunately, what happened recently?
I know, but you know, that will lift soon.
I hope so, because, and of course, for anyone listening, we're talking about Lebanon and the disaster that happened quite recently with the explosion. That was, what was it? It was a fireworks factory next to a... No,
it wasn't a fireworks factory. It was actually in the port of Lebanon, a port of Beirut. They said it was a fireworks factory, but it wasn't actually a fireworks factory. It was where there were chemicals,
fertilizer or something.
Being stored. It's. I don't want to get into it too much politically.
No, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, it wasn't fireworks. So for everyone who watched the news, who thinks it was fireworks, all I can say, without being too politically incorrect, is it most definitely was not fireworks.
Well, it most definitely wasn't the Lebanese people who are getting violent.
No, at all.
And I think that's what the media tries to tell us.
No, it wasn't. You know? It wasn't another Arab state like Kuwait or Dubai or... I think people who have enough intelligence will figure it out, quite frankly. Yeah. But
I don't want my camper van to go up in flames either, so I'm not going to say too much either. This podcast is more about what are we laughing at? We're laughing at the total destruction of Beirut. I'm actually not laughing at that. I'm laughing at myself and Tara here trying to not I'm
trying to stay
targets
so
on our
politically correct right now.
I know.
The reason I know so much about Lebanon, just so everyone who's listening knows, is I actually worked for MTV Lebanon. So I had my own TV show in Lebanon. I used to live during the summer in Lebanon filming. So like people in Lebanon, when I used to enter through the airport, they would say, excuse me, they'd be like, "You're more Lebanese than Lebanese. Let us give you the Lebanese passport because, you know, you're here so much, you do so much for our country." Lebanese people are the best. They're like so friendly. So you will love it. Lebanese. I'm bringing you. You'll die.
Oh no, like, because we were saying this weeks ago. For anyone listening there, that was Tara coughing because Tara has broken.
I'm so sorry.
No, she's broken the rules of the podcast because she didn't want tea. So what did we get Tara? We got her
coffee.
A lovely strong coffee, but it was a bit too strong for Tara, I think. She doesn't like coffee where the spoon stands up on its own inside.
The thing is, there's milk in it. I'm so
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
I'm not really sorry.
We'll
actually.
Blame Chris.
You want me to get the expensive soy milk?
We'll blame Chris.
But yeah, look, I suppose more than about what's happened in Lebanon, we'll talk a little bit more later on about that because I have other guests who are currently living in Beirut, and I'm really interested in hearing what they have to say because, again, it's down to what we see in social media, what we see on the media. We very rarely actually get to hear from the people that are affected. We always get the filtered version, don't we?
That's the thing, you know, and it's like even here, I went on Cork FM radio and I met a group of people, and two of them have become really good friends. One in particular, her name is Leah. Do you know how many Lebanese are in Ireland? It's mental.
Yeah.
Like in Galway, there's so many, but in Cork and Dublin, working in Google, a load of Lebanese people. Loads of people from Lebanon come here to study medicine. So after the explosion, because I was here and it like literally broke my heart. I was devastated. I was waking up I was having nightmares. Like I was waking up, I was screaming my head off one night. My mother came in. I was dreaming that I was stuck under the rubble. That's how much it impacted me.
Oh.
You know, because I 3 people I know died. Some people I know are still missing. Every single person that I know in Lebanon was impacted in some way.
Of course.
Either they lost their home, or they've lost their business, or they've been like physically damaged, and like they're all mentally scarred, like all. So, you know, that's so much for you to take in your head. And I used to get really aggravated watching our Irish media because they're reporting absolute shite, excuse the word. And I love Ireland, and I love, you know, everyone that gave me a platform over here to speak about Lebanon. But if you've never been to Lebanon and you don't even know where the country is, it's very difficult for you to report on it and report facts.
Yeah.
Because they weren't given they weren't reporting proper stories. And I think a lot of the media here needs to look into how many Lebanese people live here and reach out to them, and they can get, because still there's over 300,000 people with no homes. Like every day my friends are rebuilding their homes, and now winter is coming, and by the way, when it's winter in Beirut, it's -degrees.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like snow will come up to almost, in some areas, below your knees. It's mental. So now, in a few weeks, the seasons change so quickly. People are going to be homeless, and by the way, they have no food. It's a disaster. But for me, as an Irish expat who worked there and lived there, and I love Lebanon because this is like the first place I got my TV career. The owner of MTV contacted me, saw me on TV in Kuwait, and my whole TV career catapulted in Lebanon. So
fantastic.
It's a country that's really close
Do you know what?
to my heart.
I'd nearly have to go to the Middle East before my career in TV takes off, because
yeah, exactly.
the Irish production companies are just not looking for me, you know.
Well, they're stupid because they're losing out.
Oh, I know. I thank you very much.
No, I'm serious.
You know? But look, we'll always get there in the end, you know. But that's a lovely little tale, to be honest with you. Like you've done so much over there, and we're going to have a cup of tea. And I'm going to make a cup of tea. It's part of the show, and I'm going to keep the tradition, even if you don't want it. I can make you a weaker cup of coffee if you want.
Do you know what they call it in the Middle East?
What?
Chai.
Chai.
Yeah.
Really?
You'd fit in so well over there with your tea.
In Portuguese, it's chá.
Yeah,
it's quite similar, but I think it is an Arabic word, though, isn't it?
Chai. Yeah, chai.
Like a chai latte.
And there's an Irish tea company here, and I'm going to bring them to the Middle East because they love tea. They love tea in the Middle East.
Yeah?
Yeah, non-stop drinking tea. But of course, you know here how, so there's chai, which is just, they normally drink it black, okay? But then there's another one called chai halib, and that halib means milk.
Okay. But there's like condensed
this is what I do with that. They boil and boil and boil and boil and boil milk and put tea bags into it and boil and boil and boil and boil and put so much sugar, and they love it.
They love the sugar.
Chai halib. No. Can't.
Really?
Yeah. But you'd love it over there with their chai.
Oh, I love tea. And guess what? It's that time of the show.
It's chai time.
But Jesus, time for a cup of tea on the HazBeanz Show. And we're back. So,
woohoo.
Yeah, so a little boil the kettle there, and I've got a cup of chai.
Yeah, you can stick to your chai, and I'm going to have myself an Irish coffee now. It's time for the Irish coffee.
I'd love to have an Irish coffee, but I'm going to stick to the tea. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about some other work you've done that I have left to the last segment of this show, because, well, the last segment of our interview, because you're going to stay on to listen to the conversations I'm going to have with some of the Lebanese people that are still in Lebanon.
Of course.
But for the last part of our little conversation, I want to ask you, first off, I want to say I love you to bits for doing this.
Aww.
But can you tell us a little bit about the work you've done with the Syrian refugees? And more specifically, it was the kids as well that you were helping out as well. So I really want to hear about that. And I'm pretty sure I'm already kind of welling up a little bit because I've seen the pictures. Your pictures are fantastic, by the way. But yeah, if you go to Tara Sillery, is it PR Passion on Instagram?
No, I have 2 accounts. So I have my personal account and my work account. Anything to do with the refugees is Tara Sillery.
So Tara Sillery on Instagram. Check it out. You'll see the pictures of the work she's done. The pictures are kind of heartbreaking, to be fair. There's one of an old lady there. Oh man, I don't even.
Yeah, but
you tell us.
It's reality.
Yeah, I know it's reality, but I don't deal with reality very well.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 years ago. Basically, I had a show on MTV in Lebanon. Okay, so you know what it's like when you're on TV. Everyone's like, "Oh, can you do this? Can you come here?" I'm very picky and choosy. I don't need free dinners. I don't need this kind of nonsense. So my friend in UNICEF asked me, would I go and just see the whole situation in refugee camps and all that kind of stuff. And I was very dubious at the beginning because the refugee camps are, first of all, really far away from Beirut. You have to go through so many checkpoints. And especially, it's very volatile in Lebanon, the whole political situation. I'm like white, Irish, crazy blondie on television. So one of my other friends, he's a politician in the area where the refugees were. And he's like, you're mental, you're not coming, you're a primetime candidate for kidnapping. You know, Tara, if you want to help, just buy them some food or something. And I was like, oh, that's your answer? Okay.
Yeah.
So I went, and I think I've told this story once before on a live TV show I did in Hollywood about the refugees. But basically, you know when someone says to you, you know how, oh my God, this guy, he broke my heart is broken. I was like, yeah, whatever. The only time I ever thought my heart is broken was the day I went to a refugee camp. I remember I went and I was like, okay, I have to buy stuff. I want to buy them food. I want to buy, at least get them chips or crisps or, you know, sweets and stuff like this. So I went into this one campsite. I can't describe to you. Kids are jumping on you, like they're jumping off you, they're holding onto your leg because you're literally viewed as their savior. You're going to help them. They have nothing. They're living in tents, and sometimes they're not even proper tents. Okay, they have no food. There's a whole generation of a family in one tent. By the way, in a size like this van that we're in, which I'm stealing to go on holiday, you would fit maybe 20 people in here. Yeah. You have no idea. And in all of this, they will cook, they will clean everything.
Nice.
So
crazy.
The one thing, and you'll see the picture, it's somewhere, one picture went really viral on National Geographic. Someone pulled it off, and I don't know, it went really viral. And the day I thought my heart was going to break was when I gave a girl a pack of crisps, like Cheetos or something, okay? She went to put one in my mouth first before she fed herself. And this is a 4-year-old kid who probably didn't eat all day. I had to get up.
That's heartbreaking, like, in fairness.
Yeah. I got up and I walked out, and like, by the way, there was like camera crews and all that kind of stuff there. And I was like, it ends now. Cameras have to stop. This isn't a circus. This is... like, I was like, there's no words to describe it. So I always remember it. I walked outside and I went to the back of like where the tent was, and I literally went down on my knees, and I literally thought, I was like, is this the pain? I thought either I think I'm going to have a heart attack, but I don't know what it's like, the feeling is like to have a heart attack, or is this the actual feeling that my heart is broken? I was like, or is this an anxiety? And I've never had an anxiety attack. I was like, what in the name of Jesus? Like, and literally some people, and they're like, are you okay? And I was like, everyone needs to get away from me. This is like not okay. This is not okay. And then I composed myself, went back in, and I was like, okay, everyone is, I'm working in TV, oh, this glamorous job, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I don't live here. This isn't my country, but I'm going to make sure that everyone knows what these kids go through. Because my point is, the kid didn't choose to live in this crazy messed up world that they live in.
I think that's what we need to remember over here as well. Sorry, I'm like, you can probably see me. I am so sensitive to stuff like that.
I didn't get out of bed for 3 days, by the way, when I came back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay. My friends, they were coming over to my place in Beirut, and they were like, "What's wrong with you? Get your shit together." And I was like, "You need to get out. Like, I will never..." This sounds really narcissistic, what I'm going to say, but please don't judge me. I was like, I'm never going to... I used to always fly business class everywhere. I was like, I will never fly business class again. I will never buy handbags again. I will never do this again. Because even to this day, everything I buy, in my head, mentally, I think, that can feed them. Like, I have one family that they've gone back to Syria. I've placed them back in Syria and they're so happy. You'll see them all the time on my Instagram. Yeah. They send me videos every other day. And I think even more people will realise it now during COVID. The lives, you only have one planet, one earth, one life. This whole Instagram shit of, let me post my makeup, let me post how I look, let me do this. It's bullshit. All of it. Of course. There's people like, these kids have no, and when I mean
and I've started
nothing,
to use less
nothing.
Makeup now, in fairness.
Did you?
So
Good.
don't be throwing daggers at me.
But your eyeliner is good today.
Yeah, it's always good, actually.
But yeah, people always say, "Oh my God, you're amazing! You have the heart of an angel. You're an angel." I'm like, I'm not an angel, and these kids and these people have made my heart a better organ in my body. You know, they've made my world better. And they've changed me. You know. I was always so grounded and down to earth. I was never into this whole nonsense of, I'm a bit boring. I don't really like going out that much, but I was never stargazing. You know, like I work with huge celebrities that people would die to meet. But
so
for me,
just people. That's all they are. It's just people.
They're humans.
I suppose then, over here we have an issue with direct provision centres.
Oh, this is something as well, by the way, I'm so interested in, and I was messaging them on Twitter, and I'm going to there's some conference call with them later on tonight, actually, because I need to know so much more about this, because I see nasty stuff on Twitter. I'm like, what's going on?
It needs to end. You know,
what is it? Explain it to me.
A direct provision centre is where, I suppose, people seeking asylum, they're put into a direct provision centre, they're given pittance. I think it's like 20 quid a week or something like that. Now, they are given food, but what we're seeing in a lot of the direct provision centres is the food is substandard.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously substandard.
I've seen that.
A lot of it isn't halal, and there's just a serious lack of respect, actually, towards people with different dietary needs. There's overcrowding. I think there has been some serious assaults that's happened within it.
Oof.
You know, and that's from putting people into the room. Like, there's no kind of protection for people. I think people have died in direct provision centres. Yes, but here's the crazy thing: is the amount of money that's been spent.
This is what I'm so interested in, because there's the group on Twitter, the direct provision, and I think they really love and support you a lot, right? They were retweeting.
I do love and support them as well. Yeah.
But it was like, I was seeing their pictures. Does this meal look like it cost €100? And I was like, what is going on here? Like, what's happening?
Well, that's what the company who runs the direct provision centres will be receiving from the state. I know. But look, that's a whole
rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. And
Maybe we'll have another episode about that after I have the call with this.
Well, I tell you what, I will be returning to direct provision centres as a topic, and I have friends who have gone through the direct provision process.
Yeah.
And lovely people, and it breaks my heart because they just want a chance to earn a living. Yeah. To work, to live, to be. And when we're talking about Syrian refugees, and we're talking about people come from war-torn countries, people
don't have a clue. Do you know what I find so bad in this country? They're like, coming over here to our country, taking off the state. Why don't they go back to their own country? I'm like, are you that ignorant that you don't realise that their country is being nuked? They don't have a home. They have nothing. It's all gone. They don't have a system with a bank. They have no economy. This country is so lucky. If you don't have a job, they'll help you. It's mental.
Also, there's we need to also remember as well, when we talk about Syria,
Yeah.
it's not the Syrians who chose this war.
No, of course
You've
not.
got the Russians, you got the Americans. Who else is? Iran is involved. I think. Is it Kurdistan?
It's too much. It's like a hot mess.
But it's not the people. The people that we see crossing the border
it's
looking for
not their
help.
fault.
No, they're running.
They didn't choose this.
It's crazy.
They didn't wake up and choose people need to get a grip of reality in this country.
And I think that's what I want to aim with this podcast, is to do several different podcasts like that. But we're going to talk to some people that are in Lebanon, because I think I think just because of what's happened recently, it's something that I want to look at, and because it's a country I want to go to as well. I want to go to.
You
to
will.
Beirut.
I will bring you.
I will. Once Corona fecks off.
I know, it feck off.
But look, Tara, as always, I want to say thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I will be having you on again before you feck off to the Middle East again, because let's face it, you're wearing the hooped earrings today, and you are genuinely more of a traveller than I am, because you've travelled from the Middle East.
On. They say the bigger the hoop, the bigger the... Anyway.
Bure. The bigger the bure. Tara Sillery, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you enjoyed the Irish tea.
I loved Irish coffee, actually.
Oh, Irish coffee. Sorry. I'm...
Magic.
Oopsie doodles. Anyway, guys, I just want to say that, if you can get a chance, go check Tara Sillery out on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And if you're still doing stuff around the Syrian refugees, Tara, put up a recent post, or put up a new post, and maybe some people who want to get involved in helping out can reach out to you, because I think it's important.
Yeah, especially now that winter's coming, It's like, I hound all my friends, don't throw anything away, I'll take it to Lebanon for the refugees, because they're at the border of Syria and Lebanon. So maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do another episode where you come on and we can do maybe a bit of not a food drive, because I don't think food that'd be perishable, wouldn't it? You see, the thing is, to bring it there costs so much money as well on shipping it and all that kind of nonsense. But when people go through their wardrobe and I don't need this, I don't need that. There's people with no clothes or no shoes, and they need it. So there's always someone. What do they call it? Your garbage is someone else's treasure. Yeah, that's so true. But you know what? We might return again in the future, as I said, and we might do some kind of clothes drive towards Christmas. But we'll definitely revisit this. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're so welcome.
Also, can I try out my new Lebanese words?
Okay.
So
you should have said this at the beginning of when you were opening.
Hama. Masa. Oh, that's right. Masa El Khouri. There we go. Martin Bean's word, bilingual, connecting the world with words. That's me, the wordsmith. My name as Gaelic is Macanvord, which means son of the bard, which means we work with words. Yeah, way. So now, do you want to say goodbye in an Arabic word to close it all off? Yeah. Masalama. Masalama. Yeah. That means goodbye in Arabic. Masalama. Masalama. Sounds like a pasta bake. Well, Tara Sillery, masalama. Masalama, baby. Okay, thank you so much, Tara. And we will be back again with another one. But we're going to go back now to have a conversation with the guys over in Lebanon. Yeah, and enjoy this one and listen carefully, everyone. Yes. And see how you can help. So, coming up in the last part of the show, we're going to talk to 3 locals living in Lebanon. More specifically, living in Beirut. We're going to ask them how they've been affected post-explosion. We're also going to learn, for the first time for me anyway, maybe you guys are far more clued in with all this, but we're going to learn about the political system and about the economic crisis that's going on there at the moment, and about the medical supply shortage that's happening post-explosion and during the middle of a global pandemic. So, the first guest is Jad El Khouri, who is a medical doctor. The second guest is Bou Mansour, who is a medical expert, and the final guest is Rouida, who is a restaurant owner in Beirut, who had her restaurant destroyed with the explosion. Please listen, and we're going to mention a couple of, pages and websites and ways that you can help promote, I suppose, what's happening over there, and how you can, I suppose, challenge the corruption that's coming from the government. So please listen intently, and please, if anything from this podcast, take away the messages that each of these interviewees leave us with. Thank you very much. So today I'm joined by Dr. Jad El Khouri, who is he's living in Lebanon. He's a doctor, and I just want to say welcome to the HazBeanz Show, Jad.
Thank you. I'm actually quite flattered to be on your show.
Oh, you haven't heard it yet, so...
Well, yeah, I haven't heard it yet, but I've heard your accent and I love it. So
oh, thank you very much.
I'm excited because of that. And, mainly I'm also really excited because in spite of the worldwide situation, which is quite gloomy at the moment, there are still some people out there who are trying to do positive things to instill, positive thoughts, positive change, positive attitudes, and that's what these podcasts are all about, I hope.
Oh, absolutely. Like today, I myself and Chris, the sound technician, decided we wanted to do. So Chris is off with the laptop at the moment. He can't hear you. So, well, he can hear you, but he can't speak.
Hear me later and say hi back.
Yeah, no problem. And so we decided that with everything that's going on in Lebanon at the moment, we wanted to talk to some locals. And a friend of ours, Tara Sillery, who was on the show, lived in Lebanon, and she lived in Kuwait, and she's been living in the Middle East for the last 10 years. And we were talking about what it was like for her living there. Because one of the aims of this podcast was to dispel some of the myths around living in the Middle East. Because, of course, we have a lot of, the Western media, and we get a lot of misconceptions pawned off as fact and reality. But I couldn't do an episode around Lebanon without talking to some people who are living there. So I just want to ask, I suppose, straight off the bat, what's it like living there now at the moment, post-explosion?
Well, it's quite different. So literally, you've got Lebanon pre-explosion and Lebanon post-explosion. It's a really different situation. Like right now, honestly, everyone's just going through the motions. Everyone's still traumatized from what happened. You've got people who lost their houses. Some people lost their loved ones. Some people lost their livelihood, not just because of the explosion, also because of the corona pandemic and the Lebanese economic situation right now, which has been coming to a boiling point since early 2020. So it really hasn't been a good year to Lebanon in general.
Yeah.
However, well, actually, Lebanese people are quite crazy. So you still got little glimpses of hope and happiness here and there. You still got people who go out and party in spite of the corona pandemic, which I highly recommend against, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially like schools are closed, but people are, drinking and partying everywhere. So, but yeah, so this is not really the ideal situation right now for everybody. However, I think we still have the spark, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do.
The friendliness towards, like, well, obviously everybody says that in every country, but Lebanese people love foreigners in the in being hospitable kind of sense.
Yes, of course.
And that's still ongoing. Obviously, that's still a thing here. We're still friendly towards each other as much as we can, in spite of the situation.
For myself, look, Lebanon has always been a country I wanted to travel to, and I would Sorry.
And you should, and I'll show you around.
That'd be absolutely brilliant. You see, that's the type of hospitality we want all of the listeners to hear, because we want to promote the positives. We don't want to talk about the negatives, because by and large, you guys are all victims to this explosion, and now you're victims to how the media portray what it's like to live there. And yes, of course, there's scaremongering. You know, people are afraid to travel. But I would really like to see a time in history where all of that is pushed aside and we can just get on with life and get on with, you know, spreading love and spreading positivity and getting more people to visit the Middle East and starting to really kind of investigate for themselves, you know, around the realities of how hospitable you guys are over there. Because anyone that I've ever met from the Middle East have been extremely hospitable. You know, you go into somebody's home and straight away you're offered a cup of tea, which is quite like Ireland. We share a lot of similar traits.
Yeah, I can't wait to visit Ireland, actually.
Oh, well, you should definitely visit Ireland.
I definitely will. But yeah, so the thing is that, like, in Lebanon, it's really a mixture of different realities all at once. So on a usual pre-explosion day, obviously, because, you know, we're still dealing with it. But eventually I think we're going to pull through. Because, you know, you've got, like, you could go like in the same day, on the same day, you can literally go to the beach, then go spend the day up in some mountain, then go party your ass off all night long and get wasted. And then, like, right next to the nightclub, you have a mosque and a church where if you want to go, like, pray, you can go do that thing.
When you want to, when you want to seek forgiveness for being up on the mountain.
Yeah, because, you know, people misbehave up in mountains.
Of course.
As far as I know. As far as I hear, obviously, I behave all the time.
Oh yeah, you read about it in a magazine.
Yeah, I read about it in a magazine. So basically, you've got this amalgamation of West meets East over here a lot. So you've got some conservative communities, mainly outside of Beirut, and obviously they're very friendly, they're very nice, very welcoming to strangers. Because you know, like, conservative, whenever someone's, at least in the Middle East, because I cannot speak for the rest of the world, but whenever someone is conservative in the Middle East, they actually still have the ancient values of this region, in the sense of hospitality to strangers, helping anyone in need, giving and showing off the best image of themselves. So they're quite generous, they're quite nice. And then you've got on the other end of the spectrum, very westernized Beirut, where you know, like, you could literally do anything and kind of get away with it. So you really get, like, if you feel like exploring some stuff that you can't really get acquainted with in Europe, and you could, you know, obviously get out of Beirut, because there's plenty of touristic spots. There's that, yeah. But there's also a really interesting lifestyle that you don't get to see everywhere. And if you know, feel a bit homesick, then Beirut is really, really, really fun. Like, you can't do all Beirut in one day, obviously.
Oh, I would think when I go there, I will definitely go for a few weeks, because I want to see the countryside, I want to see the nature, but also the architecture. And I think, you know, there's so much history.
Well, the beautiful traditional architecture is not like, we have. Obviously, there's an NGO called Save Beirut Heritage, which is working on preserving the ancient Beiruti architectures, especially stuff like that are a century or more old, etc., all over Beirut. But there isn't many, not as many as whenever you leave Beirut, where you've got these, you know, the cute red roofs and the really nice houses that are really typical of old Lebanon.
Yeah.
And they still got that outside Beirut, and that's just beautiful to look at, and to really appreciate. And of course, there's the animals.
The what?
Well, nothing. The animals, nothing.
Oh,
really.
yes.
Well, actually, we just have cats and dogs.
They'll do.
I was trying to go for something exotic, but, you know, big fail.
Well, there'll be some exotic Irish people going over there, hopefully in the near future. So, and they act like animals sometimes. So, you know, you might adopt them.
Went wrong.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you then? Because some of my listeners would be from the LGBT community. Could you maybe let us know what's it like for an LGBT person, if you know of any, that to live there or to be there or to visit Lebanon?
Well, a lot of LGBT people actually visit Lebanon because, especially for Beirut, there's a lot of hangout places, nightclubs, etc. for the LGBT communities. There are drag shows. There's all that kind of stuff. But obviously outside of Beirut, because it's more conservative, then no, you're not going to find an LGBT-friendly club or restaurant outside Beirut. Mm-hmm. But you could still no one's gonna harass you. Obviously, we're still not very accepting as a community of these views, which I fully support. Mm-hmm. I fully support the views and the community, the LGBT community. Yet, but we're heading there. There's been quite some reforms, and the younger generation is quite open at the moment. Really, I'm actually really proud of them.
Yeah,
I'm really surprised that things are changing, and they are changing rapidly. Again, at least especially for Beirut, so which is the urban center of the country,
which would be where most people would travel to anyway, would be Beirut.
Yeah, but I've had lots of LGBT European friends visit Lebanon, and they've been outside Beirut, they've been sightseeing, they've done the tourism, they've done it all, and they've had fun, they've had some great time.
Yeah,
and
so
obviously they've tried out the LGBT scene as well, and they've really had fun there, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean. I think everybody knows what you mean, and that is fantastic. Yeah. Also, Jad, in Ireland, where I'm from, it was illegal. Yeah. It was illegal to be gay in the mid-1990s. So our country here has only come on leaps and bounds since then. So we're not too far ahead of you guys. And again, it was largely down to, I suppose, religious and conservative values in Ireland. But with time and with a lot of people kind of supporting the LGBT community, these things change over time anyway. But I for myself, I've travelled to some countries where it's not advised to show public displays of affection if you're LGBT, and while it's not ideal, but you can live with that in the meantime, Yeah,
well, the thing is that in typical Middle Eastern culture, men do hold hands.
I saw that.
So
yes.
So we've got lots of Syrian or Iraqi or whatever heterosexual males who actually hold hands on the street as they walk, and that's pretty normal. It's very normalized. Now, for the Lebanese, they don't really do that because they've more of kind of acquired the macho Western US ideals of friendship, if you will.
Yeah.
So, in Lebanon, I would say no. If you're LGBT, don't do a lot of public display of affection unless you're in an LGBT space, obviously.
Yeah.
Because no one's gonna kill you, no one's gonna shoot you, no one's gonna attack you. But
it's also to respect the customs and traditions of the local area that you're traveling to.
Well, yeah, I guess, but there's a place to everything, I assume, for now, and hopefully that will change eventually. But no one's gonna bat an eye if no one's gonna take you to prison because you're gonna hold hands with someone, obviously.
Yeah.
But just don't. But a lot of businesses and institutions have it in their bylaws that there's no discrimination based on gender or orientation. So you've got lots of European employees in some local NGOs or local institutions or universities, etc., who are here, who are, for instance, gay and here with their husband and child, or lesbian, and they do perform public displays of affection at times. So there's that end of the spectrum as well.
That's the Western people always pushing the boundaries. That's what they do. They just do whatever they want.
They should push the boundaries.
maybe in some sense. So tell us then, Jad, you're a doctor. We're not going to talk about where you work or anything like that, but would you see a heavier workload now post explosion? Are you still treating people, or?
Yeah, so the first few days post explosion were really, really, really they took a toll on all of us, especially on the medical community. So
yeah,
it was really, I think bad is an understatement, but I'm gonna say bad. So, and then things have calmed down since. Right now, I think it's more about, I think the main focus is about obviously helping anyone who has unfortunately gotten any form of disability or was negatively impacted by the explosion, and obviously helping anyone deal with their psychological traumas.
Yes.
Because that's very real, and those things can actually haunt you for a lifetime. So I think this is really important right now. It's very important to do.
I suppose when we talk about mental health issues and things like post-traumatic stress disorder, they're very real consequences of something like an explosion.
Very real, and a lot of people are depressed, a lot of people are anxious, a lot of people have PTSD, obviously. And we really have to deal with that eventually if we're gonna pull through, And luckily we do have some of the best hospitals in the Middle East, and that does help to a certain extent. But
and would you see it more difficult at the moment dealing with people that may have been caught up in explosion, as well as dealing with a global pandemic like the coronavirus?
Basically, what's the worst thing that can happen when you have a pandemic? An explosion that forces everyone into the streets.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, honestly.
Well, Jad, I would love to bring you back onto the show again in maybe a few months' time when things are looking a little bit more positive. But for the meantime, and I'd really love for you to just think about this before you answer, what message would you like to send out to everyone over on the western side of the world, I suppose, to all my listeners and for anyone listening in, listening to this story about Lebanon? What message would you like to give out?
I think that's a tough one.
Of course.
I think I would say that, don't trust everything you see on TV or in the news. And if you really want to know a people, if you really want to know a country, then you should rely on your first-hand experience before you judge, because at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all literally the same. We're flesh and blood. We have emotions. We have the same basic needs. We have the same basic wants, which are literally just shelter, food, safety, happiness, sex. Literally the same basic wants for all of us. And just I wouldn't really judge, or not judge, I'm going to say judge. I wouldn't really presume that, for instance, everything I see portrayed as an American high school on TV, because we get lots of American shows here, is real to the T. I would really hope that not everything you see, for instance, on Homeland is assumed to be real, or on because like there was like one time I remember there was the Oprah Winfrey show, and they were talking about one of our Lebanese singers, Nancy Ajra, if you want to look her up, and they're like, she's challenging the norms of the country by dressing this way and singing and dancing and God knows what, and they're like showing a desert with cameras and all that, and like, okay, one, we don't have a desert. Two, she's like very modest compared to how we dress, because literally, like, we dress like way more, extravagantly than that. And
are you throwing shade on Oprah?
Yeah, like I love Oprah, but seriously, have your team do their research first, please. Like we've had Sabah, if you want to look her up, she's like this pop diva from the the 60s or 70s, and she's like, she's like the Madonna of Lebanon, if you know. Like, so no, don't trust everything you see on TV, everything that's being portrayed on TV. Come have your first-hand experience. If you hate it, so be it. If you love it, love it. And we are obviously gonna do our best to make sure you have a great time and you love it here and you love our people just like we would,
Well,
feel.
Jad, all I can say is challenge accepted. I will make the trek over once the coronavirus goes and we're allowed to travel again. I am going to make it my business to travel to the Middle East, because I do want to learn firsthand and I do want to experience all the positives that the media are forgetting to tell us. My
pleasure to be your guide.
Well,
you just have to tell me beforehand. You can't just, give me a call and hey, my plane just landed. Come pick me up. So don't do that.
No, I won't do that. Although I did something similar to that when I went to Brazil. But no, I won't do that. I'll give you plenty of notice. But Jad, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on the HazBeanz Show. And I'll send you a link of the full show afterwards, and you can have a listen back to it. But I do want to be able to speak to you again in the future, maybe when things are looking a little bit more positive.
Anytime.
Well, thank you so much. So how do I say it again? So it is Masa El Khair is good evening, because I think it's
Masa. It's like in Lebanese we don't use the
Masala.
So
is it Masala?
Masa El Khair.
Masala Khair. Haha, see, I'm learning.
Well, I'll teach you some more whenever.
Well, thank you very much. And Jad, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And do take care over there. And we will definitely speak again soon.
Of course, anytime.
Okay, take care, Jad. Hello, Georges.
Hello, yeah.
Hello.
How are you?
That's not too bad, hello, Sahla.
Hello, Sahla Fiek.
I'm afraid that's all I know.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll teach you some Arabic.
Well, I would like to learn that, actually. I find it to be a fascinating language, and I think a lot of English words also originate from the Arabic language.
Yeah, and a lot of actual Lebanese Arabic dialect or language is derivated from French and English.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if Paul told you. In Lebanon, we speak a mix of Arabic, English, and French. That's the Lebanese.
Oh, chanté. Very good. So,
yeah.
Well, welcome to the HazBeanz Show. This is my podcast, and this episode is basically about the Middle East, but we've started to specifically look at Lebanon because of everything that's been going on. And just before calling you, I spoke to your friend Jad El Khouri, who's a lovely guy and had a lot to say. But I suppose I'd love to hear your thoughts on what it's like at the moment post-explosion. What's it like on the street? What's it like for people, ordinary people?
Yep, sure. Well, it's a mix of feelings because at some point we feel that we're no longer insecure, even in our houses, due to the negligence and corruption that the political system has been running the country with for years now. And at the same time, you feel people coming together because the biggest initiatives to rebuild and to help each other are from within the communities, from within the people. No politician ever mobilized anything to help.
Oh wow! Okay. I suppose that with our Western media, we don't really hear that. We hear, people saying to support the government, to send money and send charity to help out. But if there's an issue with politicians not doing as much as community groups, then surely that's a problem.
Yeah. Sure. No single politician visited the area affected in Beirut. No one even mobilized a dime to help people. From the very first day post-explosion, you would see regular people like you and me going on the street, helping each other, helping people clean up, rebuild their houses. The local NGOs, international NGOs, the local communities, those are the people mobilizing to help. The government is just sitting in their palaces, in their houses, and calling for the Western world to help with funds and for the Arab region to help with funds, but actually they're doing nothing.
Wow, you see, I didn't know that now, I'll be honest with you. So what do you think then, as somebody from the area, what do you think would be a solution? Like, what can we do to help?
The main thing is to spread awareness regarding this state we're living in, this state of corruption. We really need support from the Western world to help us drive this change we're demanding, the political change, the change from the sectarian system we're being governed by, because the politicians and the governments have done nothing but steal the public money, the people's money, for more than 30 years now. They ran the country into bankruptcy. They've confiscated people's money in banks. So we really need the help to come to the people, not through the governments, through local communities, through NGOs. And we need the push, the lobbying that can be done to help Lebanon get the reform for its political system.
Is there any website or group that we should promote on this podcast so we can direct people who want to help to a group that isn't corrupt?
Sure. If you want, there is one initiative, one NGO, one local NGO that's coordinating with many other international and local NGOs and communities. That's called DAFA, D-A-F-A. There is on Instagram, you can find several accounts such as Live Love Beirut. They are always publishing reports, stats on the help needed, on the help delivered. So they can also connect you to other actors and communities on the ground working together to help the people of Lebanon and Beirut specifically.
So just to recap then, so it's DAFA, DAFA, and Live Love,
DAFA, yeah.
Live Love Beirut.
These are two among the many NGOs and communities working, but these have contacts and they are coordinating among several groups, holding group meetings across several NGOs and actors, so they can help connect to other actors and communities mobilized.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to learn in this conversation, because we do need, for Western people, we do need to know, like, who to help, where to send our money, where not even money, but where to promote in Lebanon. Because for us, we would automatically assume that it's the government, but we come from a country maybe where our government is held to more accountability. Maybe it's a bit different in Lebanon. Why has it been allowed to continue for 30 years?
Because they opposed the civil war in Lebanon that ended in the early 90s. The politicians have been running the country with religion and in a sectarian way. They used to make people fear each other based on religion, so they could stay in power, so they could steal the money coming to help the country post the civil war, and that's how it's been done for years. Now, with the people demanding change, the government is using force on the ground. They are trying to shut the people up. They are trying also to remobilize their groups in order to spread like fear among the people, the protesters, the people who are going to the street through the October Revolution, if you heard of it.
I didn't hear of it. An October Revolution.
It started last October last year, and on the 17th of October 2019, with the increased taxes, with the corruption reaching a peak level, and now with the Lebanese lira being devaluated vis-a-vis the US dollar. So, and it's been a year almost now, and we're still living in this system, in this corrupt system. We can't even get enough medication. The hospitals can't even buy the supplies and equipment because the banks are not giving them the money in US dollars. So they are buying the equipment and supplies at an inflated rate. They are not being able to accommodate even enough COVID patients in ICUs due to the lack of supplies. So the corruption is at its peak.
I'll be honest with you, I'm absolutely shocked here because I didn't know it was to that extent. So basically the government have allowed this to happen. They're now pushing the country into a state where they can't buy medical supplies, and when they do, it's at inflated. And of course, you are a doctor as well. I should have introduced you correctly, but we just jumped straight into it, and the conversation kind of grew organically. But just to give you a full introduction, I'm sorry, you're going to have to help me pronounce your surname. So it's Georges
It's a George Bou Mansour.
Bou Mansour. That sounds French, doesn't it?
It's Lebanese, but it sounds French because maybe I'm French educated, so the accent goes naturally towards French.
Right. Okay. Well, George, I suppose as a doctor then, and we spoke to your friend Jad, and he was saying something similar that, you know, with the increase of people getting coronavirus as well, because of course the explosions happened in the middle of a global pandemic. And can you tell me a little bit about, I suppose, because it's difficult to get the medical supplies, how hard is it is it in the hospitals at the moment to operate and to actually help people?
Sure. Just to correct you, Jad is a medical doctor. I'm a public health expert. I have a master's in public health. I've been working in the health management and policy and the health project management for 10 years now in the public health sector.
Well, I apologize.
No, it's fine. Just
you can easily tell I don't have much knowledge around medical positions or things like that, so by all means correct me if I'm wrong in anything, but I suppose I'm here to learn. This is why I want to have the conversation. So you're a medical expert.
Sure. Yes. In order to brief you a bit about the medical situation in Lebanon, and post the double explosion in August 4, we lost operations in 5 of Beirut's major hospitals, 2 of them being one of the biggest medical university centers in Beirut, and even the American University of Beirut Medical Center, that is a bit farther than the explosion site, got heavily affected. So operations were a bit limited, and due to the the lira devaluation, we are facing a lot of problems to get medical supplies and medication. The hospitals are mainly relying on the Lebanese expats to send funds, on governments helping the teaching hospitals and the local hospitals. So that's we're running in a bit of crisis mode now, especially if I want to give you an example, the flu vaccine, with the flu season approaching.
Yes.
We've started with the flu season. Actually, the flu vaccine is in shortage. We received only around 70,000 vaccines lately, and the Lebanese population is 4.8 million. With the Syrian refugees, we're around 6.3 million. So imagine the shortage, with the COVID pandemic being also a global problem right now. Flu should not be a problem. We should be protected against flu in order to be able to identify COVID when it occurs. So that's an example. We're not being able even to get the vaccines on time.
Which is a very basic vaccine that in most countries it's readily available. So it's quite scary It's quite scary to
We're
hear.
used to be vaccinated by September, to have the population vaccinated by September. We're in October and we don't have enough vaccines yet.
Wow. Oh my, and can you tell me, what are your COVID rates at the moment?
The COVID rates were around, if the numbers reported are reliable, we're around 8%, 8 to 10%. It's fluctuating infection rate per day, but thankfully, around 85 to 90% of the cases are being very, very mild to asymptomatic, which is kind of a blessing with the situation we're living in Lebanon. We have cases requiring the ICU and the critical care. The problem is that we don't have enough public ICU beds, and more than 50% of the population is currently uninsured with the economic crisis, with the COVID-19 crisis. More and more people are relying on government-subsidized healthcare services, and we don't have enough of these right now. Even the private hospitals cannot accommodate all the cases because we don't have enough respirators, enough supplies right now. So that's why we're in a crisis mode vis-a-vis COVID. It's still a bit containable right now because the population is not showing a high rate of critical cases yet.
And with the I suppose difficulty in getting medical supplies and resources, would you be still getting like an adequate amount of COVID testing equipment?
We're getting a lot of donations, especially after the explosion that occurred in Beirut. So we are doing a good number of testings per day, but we don't know how sustainable it is because we're mainly running on donations more than being able to acquire the kits ourselves.
Okay. So I suppose, I'll be honest with you, George, this has shocked me. I didn't know it was this bad, especially during a pandemic when you know you need your health system to be running adequately and up to speed.
Yes.
I suppose maybe just to maybe just to close off this conversation, I'd love for you just to reach out to all the listeners here. What should we, like, I know you've said it already, but a clear and concise message that can't be misconstrued or misunderstood. Sure. What do we need to do? Us over here who are privileged, who are in, you know, a country where our government is held accountable for most things. What can we do? What should we do? Not what can we do, what should we do as other human beings to help out our brothers and sisters in the Middle East and in Lebanon in specific? What should we do?
Sure. To add a point on the healthcare system, Lebanon was regarded as the hospital of the Middle East for up until last year, until the crisis occurred. So right now we're going into a phase that's pitiful because being the hospital of the Middle East, right now we cannot afford to treat our own people. So a call to action would be, please, if you want to support the Lebanese people, do it through local or international NGOs, through local communities. Do not direct the help through government because we don't have transparency to be able to trace the donations and the help and make sure that they are getting to the right people, to the people in need. And please help us whichever way you can through lobbying in order to support the change in Lebanon, to get out of the sectarian system, to have a clean political system that is transparent, that is reliable, that makes sure that the people are getting their rights, their right to have a life, to live with dignity.
Well, George, I wish I will try to personally help. And after this phone call, if you could send me on some links to websites and to pages, I will add that to the description of this podcast, and I'll put it on my website and on my social media pages. And I personally will take this on as a little mission of my own to try to promote Lebanon and also try to highlight some of the real issues that you've just brought up, some of the stuff that our media doesn't tell us about.
Sure. Thank you. That's really appreciated. That's needed. We need the share of voice. We need the advocacy towards helping the Lebanese people right now.
Well, in the show of solidarity, I'm sending all the love that I have over to you and everyone in Lebanon. And I really hope I'd love to have you on again, maybe in the future, when things are looking a little bit more positive, or, you know, if we need another call to action, or if anything else happens in the meantime, feel free to get in touch. You know, a massive show of solidarity, And if we can help promote it through this show or through on social media, like, I'll do whatever I can.
Sure, thank you. And I hope next time we talk together, we have a chat together, I'll be able to show you the lovely side of the Lebanese life the way we showed Paul last year.
Well, I tell you what, it is in my plans to come visit once the pandemic is over. I will be coming to visit. I definitely want to go and see your country.
Sure, it would be really nice to have you here and to host you in Lebanon in a better situation, hopefully.
I'm hopeful too. Well, listen, George, thank you so much for joining us on the HazBeanz Show. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I wished also it was under better circumstances, but you know what? We need to take every opportunity we have available to us, and today just happens to be this podcast. I hope that the listeners will be called to action and will try to help. And by and large, Irish people tend to be very supportive of people in the Middle East and other countries going through issues, especially around political corruption. But I want to wish you and all your friends and family the best, and I hope that you get through this as quickly as possible, and I hope you get through the pandemic as well.
Thank you, much appreciated. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to being your guest, and I hope we would meet again in the future in better circumstances. And really, thank you for all the support.
Absolutely, thank you so much, George, and take care. Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, sahla.
Hello, Sahla Fik. How are you, Martin? Good?
I'm good. So, okay, let's start straight away. Hoida.
Yeah, sure.
Is that how I pronounce your name? Hoida. Hoida. Hoida.
Yes.
Hoida. Okay, I will try to remember that again. Well, welcome to the HazBeanz Show. And I suppose just for our listeners, you are a restaurant owner in Beirut.
Yes.
And I suppose I've spoken to two people that are local in Beirut at the moment. Both of them work in the medical field. But I wanted to speak to somebody who's affected as a business owner. Could you tell me what it's like post-explosion for you as a restaurant owner?
Post-explosion, we were hit. Our place was, we had damages in the restaurant. Our chef was injured, but he's fine now. We were already struggling with the financial situation in Lebanon. And it was hard. It's been hard since... you want to say a year back. It's been hard, and then the explosion happened. All Ashrafiyya mainly, it was very affected, and our restaurant is in Marim Khail, which is one of the areas that were mostly affected.
Okay.
We were fixing the place up for 3 weeks after the explosion, and we were thinking about if we should open or not open, but then we saw our customers coming in to help us with just cleaning up the glass and everything after the explosion, and everyone was telling us, please, if people like you, restaurants like you, just give on hope of rebuilding Beirut, and nothing will be left,
Yes.
So we decided, to open back again. It's been hard and it's been good so far. Everyone has been very supportive from our customers and friends and everyone around here. And but now we're with the corona as well hitting Beirut, it's hitting very bad now. We have the second wave, so we have limited seats of 50% capacity. We have to take reservations, and we cannot do events anymore at the restaurants. We used to get a band to play every 2 weeks at the restaurant. And so we cannot take that direction anymore. Yes, and every week after the explosion, every day, every second, we're living, we're waiting for something to happen. That's maybe the
Hello?
tragedy that we're having to deal with. Yes.
Well, okay, so basically, you were struggling with the financial issues of the country from last October. I just learned, and
Yes.
then you had the
Yes.
coronavirus, which took over from March and April, and then
Yes.
during the middle of the pandemic,
Yes.
you also had an explosion. Like how? Like you must have you must have a lot of strength to get up in the morning and say, I'm going to continue on. And one of the things I've learned from talking to people from Lebanon, including yourself, is this real sense of community, where you all come together to help out because you've all been affected together and equally.
Yes, yes, we do have that here as a community, and when we're cleaning up the restaurants, we were also going into our neighbors' homes. Me and my partner Mirna, because it's the two of us who own the restaurant, to clean the neighbors' homes as well, to help the old people that were not getting help in the street where we have the restaurant. So yes, it's everyone, and yes, we do get up every morning, it's our only way to fight back, because as I said, if it's people like us that give up on Lebanon, on Beirut, on everything, then we will just leave the country to the corrupted people that have been ruling us for the past 30 years. And we don't want that. We want everything to change. So that's why we say we're staying, and this is how we're fighting back,
And it's good to be able to fight back, but it does take an incredible amount of strength. And I just want to say that, I've said this to other guests around this podcast, that if I can promote or help spread a message from you guys to people listening over here in Ireland and the UK and the USA and in the Western world, I suppose, if I can help spread any message for you guys, I'll gladly do it. And you have my full solidarity. And it is a country that I will be coming to visit, and I will be coming to your restaurant, because I would really
would love to have you here. And anytime you want to come, our house is open. You have your own room to stay in, please.
That is so sweet. And you know what? It's quite indicative of the hospitality I've experienced from other Lebanese people. It's a beautiful thing, and it's always lost when we look at the media, because they don't show us this beautiful side of Lebanon and its people.
Yes, I know, you're right about that. We only get to see through the media the bad side of things, and it's not bad. Beirut, it's a beautiful, beautiful city, and as well as Lebanon. I was just going around Batroun today, which is a very nice area by the sea, and I went into streets. I've been living in Lebanon for 10 years now, and it was my first time to go there. Oh. And I was like, do we have this here? It's so beautiful. You have so much history. The architecture is so nice, and it's everywhere. And you have different places in Lebanon that are like this. So yes.
Well, I can tell you now that and I've said this to everyone that I've talked to so far, and I'm going to say it to you also, I will be coming to visit next year. When the coronavirus leaves, I will be coming to visit, and I will do a podcast when I'm over there to talk, just to show, I suppose, some of the locals and the hospitality.
Yes, sure. We would love to show you around, and we can introduce you to a lot of people who can help with that as well.
That'd be absolutely fantastic. So, Hoida, is that right?
Yes.
I'm still learning. I promise you I will pronounce it properly by the time I go to visit. How's that? But
yeah, it sounds good by far. It's very good.
That's brilliant. You've been very kind. But I suppose I've asked every other guest to do this, And you're the last guest that's going to be on this podcast, and it has turned into a podcast about Lebanon, even though it began as a podcast about the Middle East. But I think it's far too important not to give it the highlighting it needs. So I want you to finish off my show by telling me and all my listeners, giving us a closing note. What should we do to support you guys in Lebanon? And what message from Lebanon would you like to extend to us?
The message is, just keep talking about Beirut, because we don't want this explosion, because this was, to us, this was a nuclear bomb, okay? So just keep talking about Beirut and about what happened worldwide, so that we don't forget and we get justice, okay? And just to have everything shown about what really happened in Beirut. We don't want people to forget, and we want everyone worldwide to talk about it, to keep on talking about this explosion.
Well, that's absolutely no problem for me. And I tell you what, I'd love to have you on the show again sometime in the future when things are looking a little bit more positive. But for now, Hoida, I want to extend all the love and all the hugs and all the solidarity that I can muster, and I'm extending it to you and yours.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you so much for your time.
Not at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for spreading the word out there.
No problem at all.
A lot of love from Beirut, and as I said, we're waiting for you with open arms here.
Thank you, Habibi.
Thank you so much, Habibi.
I learned that word.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon. Take care and God bless, and I will be in touch in the future.
Thank you. Same to you, dear.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of The HazBeanz Show. The HazBeanz Show is available on all platforms. Do check us out on Facebook, which is The HazBeanz Show, or on Twitter, HazBeanz, @HazBeanzThe. If you can, we would really, really appreciate if you could subscribe to our Patreon page, which is www.patreon.com/The HazBeanz Show. The HazBeanz is spelled TheHazBeanzShow. Thank you so much. The HazBeanz podcast is presented by me, Martin Beans Ward. On sound and sound engineering is Chris Jura. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time. It's beans in a pod, but this pod is travelling.